my legs felt numb, like blocks of wood. My knees wobbled and shook. My feet were blistered and aching, and there was no end in sight to the miles of abandoned wasteland all around us. Collapsed barns and farmhouses left in disrepair, shutters hanging off their hinges, banging in the wind. But at least there weren't many zombies. That was a nice change of pace.
Why'd the damn helicopter have to go down out here in the middle of nowhere?
Ray was asking, after shaking the last few drops of water from the canteen.
Couldn't have crashed on a nice beach somewhere, you know? We could just sit back, drink rum from coconuts, and chill, waiting to be rescued.
Man, ain't no coconuts around here, that's for sure. And definitely no rum. We need water though, and soon. It'll be dark out in an hour or two. Let's hit this next farm and see what we can find. We went up the next long gravel driveway, heading towards a 2-story farmhouse surrounded by overgrown fields. The surrounding plant life had taken over parts of the house. It was being reclaimed by overgrown brush, creeping vines, and a giant, sagging willow tree which stood out back, concealing its features like a funeral veil. Let's check inside. Maybe the taps still work. The houses around here were too far from the city to be on a municipal water supply. They all had indoor plumbing hooked straight into the wells, which fed off the groundwater. These systems used pumps which relied on electricity to function, but most had a 10 to 50 gallon reservoir. As long as it hadn't been completely depleted, it would still be usable. Hopefully this house would give us what we needed, and maybe a few other supplies too. Front or back? I asked. I picked last time.
Let's go in the back. I always was an ass man.
You're an ass, that's what you are. But okay, you got it, ass man. Back door it is. The gravel driveway crunched beneath our feet as we crept around to the rear of the old farmhouse. It was quiet inside, at least. That was a good sign. Ghouls tended to perk up at the sounds of nearby movement, and despite our best efforts, it was impossible to stay completely silent while moving, especially for me, a 6.5-foot tall man. I tripped over a garbage can as we rounded the corner at the back of the house, as if to emphasize this point. The ruckus it stirred up was painfully loud in the dead silence of the rural landscape. I noticed that no birds were chirping. There were no squirrels or mice to be seen anywhere. This place had been abandoned by the world. I think we're okay, I said, regaining my balance and looking around nervously. If there were any ghouls around here, we'd have seen them by now.
Just watch your step,
Ray said.
If there were any of them within a mile, they're headed this way now.
I looked at my feet and apologized. I'd always been clumsy. If it got me killed, I could live with that. But I couldn't bear the thought of someone else dying because of my idiocy. We broke down the back door of the house, kicking it in and destroying the lock in the process. The old wooden door was splintered down the side and wouldn't stay closed, so we pushed a piece of heavy furniture in front of it to provide some security. The wardrobe was large and strong and looked capable of preventing a handful of zombies from entering. Next, we set about clearing the farmhouse. The last thing you want is to get surprised by lurking household zombies when you pick a place to crash for the night. It's best to deal with these things right away. A stitch in time saves 9, as they say. And stitches don't do shit for zombie bites anyways. Actually, by this point in the zombie apocalypse, the most terrifying prospect was no longer the idea of stumbling across a zombie in one of these closed rooms, but finding a living person. We knew what zombies would do, and to a certain extent, they were predictable. They see you, they try to eat you. We cut off their heads and repeat, over and over and over again. People are far less predictable. Where a zombie will make noise at your approach, clumsy and stupid, a person will wait quietly in the shadows. They may act as a friend, claiming to be hurt or innocent, just searching for a party to join. And we do look for those types of survivors. But they might also be pretending, waiting for you to turn your back before cutting your throat, right after shaking your hand and becoming your ally. We'd seen it all before, so we weren't as trusting these days.
Heart so cold,
The house was dark. All of the curtains were drawn. We pulled out our flashlights and began to move from the back door in the kitchen towards the front of the house to what appeared to be the living room. Wooden floorboards creaked beneath our boots as we stepped carefully into the next room. There was no indication of recent life here, and I guessed that the owners had been gone for quite some time. The front foyer was similarly empty, as was the bathroom and a small sewing room and office on the main level. Despite the quiet ambiance and the appearance of abandonment, the house had an eerie feeling I didn't like much. It was like we weren't entirely alone there, but the source of that sensation was one I couldn't place. Still, I knew better than to ignore that feeling.
My spidey sense is tingling,
I said to Ray.
Stay frosty.
He muttered.
All right. Thanks for the heads up.
He knew I had a sixth sense for these things. We crept up the stairs to the second floor, keeping our voices low and our weapons ready. I carried a razor-sharp machete, while Ray had a small hand axe and wore a katana, a Japanese antique he'd found in a pawn shop. He had it strapped to his back for as long as I could remember.
Anything?
He asked.
I don't hear a peep. Could be a sleeper, though. Okay, right side first.
He kicked in the door to the right at the top of the stairs. Dark and empty. A boy's room. There were 3 others. A master bedroom, a bathroom, and one more smaller bedroom, which looked like it had once belonged to a young girl. The walls were painted powder pink, and there were posters and drawings of horses, rainbows, castles, and fairy princesses. All of these rooms were empty. An eerie sound came from outside as the wind chime on the front porch was blown in the breeze. I shuddered thinking of what else might have caused its sudden movement.
Basement? Gotta check. Who knows? Maybe I'm losing it. Maybe we're in the clear and I'm just getting paranoid.
Ray's face told me he wished this were true, but previous experience suggested otherwise. The 2 of us went back down to the main level and stood in front of the door leading to the basement. I put my ear to the wood and waited, listening. It was quiet and still as far as I could tell, but something told me we weren't alone in this place. I felt as if I was being watched. I held up my left hand and counted down on my fingers. 3, 2, 1.
Go,
I whispered. Pushing open the door, I cast the beam of my flashlight down into the darkness. Dust motes hovered and danced in the air before us. Taking a hesitant step, I began to descend. The stairs groaned and creaked loudly beneath my feet, and I winced with each step as the old wood bent with my weight. Once at the bottom, I cast the flashlight beam around to survey the cement-floored basement. It was cluttered with junk, electronics, toys, and stacked boxes. There were cases of empty beer bottles and heaped piles of moldy clothing. A rat scurried past our feet, ducking beneath the stairs and disappearing into a gap that looked far too narrow for its girth.
I hate rats,
Ray muttered.
Stinks down here. Let's check this dump out quickly and get back upstairs. Quick but careful, okay? I still got the feeling. Would you relax? It's empty. Nobody pitches a perfect game every time, dude. It's alright if you're wrong every once in a while.
Ray was meandering into the darker section of the basement, with his hands held outwards like a showman, when he stopped speaking abruptly.
What?
A dark shape suddenly appeared from nowhere. It pounced, appearing from the shadows like a jaguar that had been lying in wait for its meal. Ray's screams rose higher and higher as he thrashed and pushed at the scrawny girl attacking him. He stuck his hands out defensively, and 2 of his fingers were quickly bitten off. Then, while he was distracted, the kid jumped up on his back and began to choke him with her legs in a triangle hold while tearing at his face with her nails. Eventually, he toppled to the floor, his face turning blue from lack of air. Despite the size difference, the feral nature of the teenage girl was too much for him to handle. She was like a cornered rat, biting and